I'm the one he loves. You need to disappear. I'm the one who deserves to be John's wife. John is shamelessly having an affair while I'm 9 months pregnant. I wanted to settle this thing, so I came to their date spot. But my thought was foolish. I thought I could be strong because I had a baby to protect, but my reckless actions put my baby in danger. As the woman walked past me, a sharp pain shot through my lower abdomen. Her fist had driven into my stomach. It happened in a split second as we passed each other. I fell hard on my backside without being able to break my fall. I felt a warm sensation in my lower body. Warm fluid slowly spread. I was so stunned and in pain that I couldn't even scream. Maybe your baby go to heaven because of you. It's punishment for using your child to keep your place as his wife. Poor thing. Her voice was cheerful. John sighed and started to speak awkwardly.
That woman isn't my wife.
She's the only one who doesn't know about John's madness yet. I'm Laura, 28 years old. Right now, I'm expecting a precious baby. I married my husband, John, a year ago after a passionate romance. Our reunion started by chance at a work meeting. Although it was supposed to be our first meeting, he seemed familiar to me for some reason. John stared at my face intently as well. Could it be John?
Laura? Is that you, Laura? Yes, it's me, John.
For a moment, we forgot we were at work, grabbed each other's hands, and started jumping up and down. I remember that John transferred to our school in 3rd grade and then transferred again to another school in 4th grade. We only spent 1 year together, but his kind and gentle nature made him very popular among the girls. At that time, most of the boys were still quite childish, so John seemed very mature. I think almost all the girls in our class had a crush on John. I was one of them. The John I admired back then has appeared before me, now an even more wonderful adult.
It's amazing that such coincidences happen. No, it's fate. We were torn apart as kids, but it was destined that we would meet again someday.
John is always a gentleman. He gently holds my hand and escorts me. He proposed on the observation deck of a high-rise tower overlooking the city lights. He slowly knelt down.
Will you marry me? Laura, I love you with all my heart.
The ring he offered was shining beautifully. The answer was, of course, yes. He placed the diamond ring on my left ring finger.
Laura, you are more beautiful than the night view or this jewel. You are my precious treasure. I will make you happy.
The people around us applauded generously. The romantic proposal was a bit embarrassing, but the joy outweighed it. John works hard and always gives me a bouquet of roses on our anniversaries. When I do the housework, he always expresses his gratitude. He's such a kind husband. And then, about 6 months into our marriage, I found out I was pregnant.
Congratulations. Oh, our baby is in there?
When I told John about my pregnancy, he teared up with joy and gently stroked my belly. I could feel his love through his warm hands.
If it's our child, they're sure to be adorable.
Already a doting parent?
That's not fair. I'm being serious. I want our daughter to be a princess, graceful and full of poise.
Hearing John's thoughts, I realized why he always treated me so kindly. He always treats me like a princess. It felt a little ticklish, but I didn't mind it. So, if it's a boy, he'll be a prince?
That's not going to happen.
Even though John acts like a prince himself, why does he laugh and deny it? Maybe he doesn't realize he acts like a prince. If it's a girl, she'll be a princess. If it's a boy, he'll be a prince. Either way, they'll be kind and wonderful. I was filled with happiness. The rift between John and me started a few months later.
What? A prince?
When I found out the baby's gender, I immediately told John.
A prince? Meaning a boy? No way. Why?
Even if he asked why, we can't choose the baby's gender. John looked at my belly with a deeply disappointed expression. Didn't you want a boy? I asked, protecting my belly.
Of course not. Boys are rough, dumb, and what's good about them? Tell me one good thing about raising a boy.
It was the first time I learned how John felt, and I was just stunned. But it didn't stop there. John said something he should never have said.
Go get an abortion soon.
He said it with his usual gentle smile, and I was shocked. Wait, why? How can you say something so horrible? It's your baby. John's reply was terrifying.
Yeah, it's my baby, so I can decide to abort the pregnancy, right?
He wasn't joking, he was serious. John gently held my hand as I lost all color in my face.
I know. Abortion is hard on a woman's body. It's scary, right? Let's take care of it while the baby is still as small as possible. I'm worried about your health, Laura.
Is he gentle? He's kind to me, but he has absolutely no love for our unborn child.
It'll be okay. Next time, let's make sure it's a girl.
John patted my head, and I instinctively pushed his hand away. No, I'm having this my baby. Just because it's a boy doesn't mean its life can be taken lightly. I thought my feelings were completely natural, but John looked utterly incredulous. Since then, John has been ignoring me. Of course, I didn't have an abortion and my belly began to plump. Good morning, John. I didn't want to ignore him too. I kept greeting John, who blatantly avoided me. It was as if John had an allergy to baby boys. When I got close, he would scratch his arms and neck furiously. Hey, John, the baby is moving inside me. Do you want to feel it? John glanced at me and muttered.
I don't care.
He's originally a kind person. Once the baby is born, he'll be so charmed by how adorable it is. He's just being stubborn because it's not the gender he hoped for. It's just a matter of patience until the baby is born. However, I soon realized that repairing our relationship was already impossible. One day, I received a message on my phone. Disappear? It was a single message from an unknown account. A prank? Or maybe a mistake? At first, I thought lightly of it, but the messages kept coming. Nuisance? Last time it was garbage woman. What is this? It's scary. I wanted to reply to find out who it was, but it might not just be a prank. There was a risk of getting involved in a malicious scam. I had seen on TV before that you should ignore suspicious emails. They said not to respond to phone calls or messages that made you anxious. So I thought if I ignored these messages, they would eventually stop. But ignoring them seemed to have the opposite effect. Another message from the usual person. What? I reluctantly checked the message and my eyes widened in surprise. This time, there was a photo attached for the first time. John? And who's this? It was a picture of John and an unknown woman, smiling with their cheeks touching. The message that followed was terrifying. Laura, How long do you intend to ignore repeated warnings and stay there? My name was written in the message. How does this person know my name? It was clear that this wasn't a prank or a mistake, but a message directed specifically at me. They want me gone, and a photo with John. Does this mean he's cheating? I couldn't believe that kind-hearted John would do such a thing, but the situation made me suspicious. The message was overly polite, but filled with strong malice. Recently, John had indeed been cold towards me. Is he cheating because the baby is a boy? I can't accept that reason. No, that can't be right. John treasures me too much to betray me. I said out loud to convince myself. It's probably the work of an ex-girlfriend. It's not unusual for an ex to have friendly photos. She's desperately trying to get the kind John back from me. John would never betray me. For some reason, I completely trusted him. So, I decided to consult John when he got home from work. Hey, John, I want you to look at this picture. John, still maintaining his distant attitude, looked uninterested as I spoke. He glanced at the screen of the phone I held out. At that moment, John's eyebrow twitched. What do you think? Do you know this person? I was genuinely just seeking advice. He's being stubborn right now, but deep down he must think I'm the most important person in the world. Once he knows I'm in trouble, he'll surely protect me like a man. Then, John ran his hand through his hair and let out a deep sigh.
So, this is the kind of woman you are.
For some reason, he looked at me with contempt, and my body froze. I couldn't understand what he meant.
If you think about it, this is your fault. What kind of wife does things that her husband hates, and then to blame me, who's been putting up with it? What kind of nerve do you have?
John's attitude went beyond mere stubbornness or coldness. It was filled with a sense of resignation and disappointment. I couldn't understand why he was suddenly so angry.
I married the wrong person.
John left the house, his footsteps loud and heavy. I sat down on the floor of the empty room. Why? The woman in the photo might not be an ex-girlfriend, but his current one. Finally, I had to admit that John was betraying me. I just wanted to talk to John about the suspicious messages, but he must have misunderstood and thought I was accusing him of cheating, making him furious. We met again by fate and fell deeply in love, getting married. This wasn't supposed to happen. As I stroked my belly, which was moving energetically, I wondered where our happiness had broken. I couldn't even wipe away the tears that flowed naturally. My mind was a mess of past joys and future anxieties, leaving me unable to think clearly. Since then, John has been even more irritable. He completely ignored me. When I tried to talk to him, he didn't respond, and if I got close, he would click his tongue and move away. He seemed to have no desire to discuss anything. John's attitude made me increasingly anxious. My emotions changed almost every day, such as crying, anxiety, and irritation. I couldn't control my emotions. But when I received a certain letter, that instability disappeared. I was going to have a baby and become a mother. At 9 months pregnant, with the birth imminent, my sense of motherhood became clear. I resolved that there was no time to cry or worry anymore. And today, I was going to settle everything. I came to the local flower park. The seasonal flowers were bathed in the orange glow of the sunset. When I took a deep breath, the sweet scent of the flowers filled my chest. But I wasn't there to be healed. I was there to find John and a certain woman at the end of the beautiful flower corridor. They didn't notice I was just 5 meters behind them. They were enjoying a romantic moment, close to each other. As the sun set and the lights came on, they would enjoy an even sweeter, happier time. I remembered the proposal against the night skyline. I had my moments of happiness, but I no longer had any regrets. I steeled myself and approached John, who was lost in their world. John.
What? Oh, Laura.
I expected him to be more flustered, but John just frowned. He didn't even try to shake off the woman clinging to his arm. The woman looked up at John with a slightly worried expression.
What?
A man and woman arm in arm, having a lovely date in a flower garden. In this situation, there's no way he can pass her off as just a friend. But a part of me didn't want John to make pathetic excuses about it being a misunderstanding.
Why? Why are you here?
John just muttered complaints. John, who is this woman? He didn't answer my question. So you were cheating. Even when caught red-handed, John continued to ignore me. The baby is due soon, and you're being this irresponsible as a father? Like a rebellious teenager, he turned his gaze away with an annoyed expression. Instead, the woman spoke up. Poor John. She hugged his arm tightly as if to protect him. Then John stepped forward in silence. She walked along with him, still clinging to his arm. Wait, we still need to talk. I wanted to settle things, and I might have been a bit impatient. I stepped in front of John and the woman. But John avoided me as if I were a bothersome utility pole. Then the woman walked past me. She smiled brightly. Her sticky smile filled me with fear, and I got goosebumps all over my body. The next moment, I felt a strong impact on my lower abdomen. I looked down to see the woman's fist buried in my belly. It happened in a split second as we passed each other. I fell backward. My mind was filled with the need to protect my baby, but I couldn't move my hands and fell hard on my backside. It hurts. Why? Even John stopped in his tracks. The woman looked down at me with a concerned expression, but her words were cruel. Oh, a pregnant woman fell. How ugly. She squatted down and spoke clearly to me. I'm the one he loves. You need to disappear. I'm the one who deserves to be John's wife. But my thought was foolish. I thought I could be strong because I had a baby to protect, but my reckless actions put my baby in danger. Suddenly, I felt a warm sensation in my lower body. I felt warm fluid slowly spreading. This is bad. Did my water break? Is the baby okay? My mind was in a panic, but the pain and shock rendered me speechless. Right after her horrifying words, the woman smiled, tilted her head, and looked into my face. Are you okay? It's dangerous for a pregnant woman to fall. What? Does it hurt? Maybe your baby go to heaven because of you. It's punishment for using your child to keep your place as his wife. Poor thing. Her voice was cheerful. She pretended to be concerned, but didn't offer a hand to help me as I lay there in pain. John sighed and awkwardly began to speak.
That woman isn't my wife.
What? People started to gather, and it became a small commotion. Someone must have called an ambulance, and I was quickly taken to my obstetrician. I was worried about my baby, but an emergency operation was performed as soon as I arrived at the hospital, and I gave birth safely. Fortunately, it was only about a week before the due date, so the baby's birth weight was fine. Though in the intensive care unit as a precaution, my baby seemed healthy. Now, let's continue settling this. 3 days after giving birth, John reluctantly showed up at my hospital room after I called for him. That woman was also with him. She looked around the hospital room and her eyes bluntly turned to my stomach, which was sitting on the bed.
Oh, your belly is flat. Did the baby go to heaven?
I had grown accustomed to her outrageous comments delivered with a sweet smile. She seemed more lively and confident than before. The woman introduced herself as Ashley.
Oh, you had the baby normally? Congratulations on your birth. It's good to have a baby around so you don't get lonely, right?
Unlike the silent John, Ashley kept talking nonstop. Despite it being a hospital and me just having given birth, she seemed oblivious to the situation.
I heard the baby is a boy from John. Isn't that nice, a little boyfriend? You won't end up a lonely old lady, you know?
Ashley was probably in her early 20s, not much younger than me.
Well, if it were me, I'd prefer a regular boyfriend over a little one. But you can settle for your little boyfriend.
Ashley grinned even wider. Her lips were moving restlessly, as if she couldn't wait to spill a secret.
I feel really bad for you, but
She hesitated, drawing out the suspense. I waited expressionlessly for her next words.
actually, you're not John's wife anymore. You guys are divorced.
When she said this, her face flushed with excitement and her legs fluttered. Yeah, I know.
Oh, really?
Her annoying dance of joy stopped abruptly. I know. John and I are divorced. For the first time, John's face, which had been indifferent until now, turned serious.
Why?
He asked in a small voice, and I calmly replied, because I received the divorce notification.
What?
About a month ago, I received a letter addressed to me. When I opened it, it was a notice that the divorce had been finalized. I was confused, thinking it might be a scam. But when I inquired, it turned out to be true. Apparently, John had submitted the divorce papers without telling me.
So you knew? You knew and still pretended to be his wife? That's pathetic. It's actually kind of scary. Since your relationship is clearly over, you should let John go.
John must have taken this drastic measure because he wanted to marry Ashley. Ashley, knowing this, seemed thrilled to be the one he loved most. The scary one here isn't me, it's John. When I glared at John, he bit his lip and looked down. I never signed any divorce papers. Did you sign them, John? Still no response. I hated being yelled at, but being ignored was just as infuriating. So, John, you forged them? Then the divorce is invalid.
What do you mean?
Ashley pouted, her cheeks puffing up. It's obvious. A divorce filed without my consent is invalid. If I make the proper appeal, it will be annulled.
You're such a horrible woman. John doesn't love you anymore. So why are you clinging to him?
He's still the father of my child. He needs to take responsibility. Ashley looked at me with contempt, as if I were something disgusting, and hugged herself, trembling.
No way, that's really scary. John was troubled because he couldn't divorce you easily because of the baby. And didn't he ask you to get an abortion, but you stubbornly refused? That's so selfish. That's why John had no choice but to file for divorce. Poor John.
It's me who is truly pitiful, being divorced without my knowledge right before giving birth. Fine, I'll go through with the divorce. Since I already knew about the divorce beforehand, I had come to terms with it. Ashley's face brightened. John's tense shoulders relaxed. Ashley grabbed John's hand and started skipping around.
We did it, John. We won. True love has won. Now we can be happy. I love you, John.
Oh, yeah.
John, being spun around forcibly, wore a bitter smile. But this is a hospital. Even though it's a private room, it's noisy, and more than anything, it's nauseating. I'm sorry to bother you when you two get excited. When I spoke up, Ashley stopped skipping. Her eyes sparkled like a little girl's. Let's see how long that sparkle lasts. Take a look at these. I spread several photos on the table.
Oh,
What? What are these?
All of them were pictures of John and Ashley together. Some of them were quite risque, with no clothes on. John quickly gathered the photos.
These pictures. Why did you take them secretly?
How could I have taken secret pictures when you're looking at the camera? I have all the evidence of your affair, so you'll be paying alimony.
Alimony? You greedy woman.
It's my rightful claim.
These are private photos. How did you get them? This is invasion of privacy or maybe even fabrication. This won't count as evidence of my affair.
I thought John was a serious person, but he turned out to be dishonest. Did he really think he could get away with a divorce and an affair without paying alimony? They're not fabricated. You two started dating 5 months ago. You met through a dating app. Several photos slipped from John's hands. His hands were trembling and his face had turned pale. Ashley told me everything. Isn't that right? Now, Ashley fell silent and looked down. John threw the photos aside and shook Ashley's shoulders roughly.
Why? Why did you say all that? And how are you even connected to Laura?
In reality, I turned the tables on Ashley, who had been sending me those messages. She pressured me to divorce John, so I played the obedient wife, insisting John would never cheat. If he loves you more than me, do you have any proof? When I tearfully pleaded, she eagerly provided the evidence. Ashley told me everything, how you met, your sweet dates, and even all the nasty things you said about me. She also sent me these indecent photos.
Damn it.
John muttered under his breath and tore up the photos in his hands.
Why? Laura is so quiet. I thought she would fold if I pressured her. Without solid proof of the affair, she would have had no choice but to accept it. But now, thanks to Ashley, everything's ruined.
Ashley, who had been silent, bit her lips so hard that a vivid red slowly oozed out. Finally, she snapped back at the suddenly furious John.
well, it's your fault, John. You kept telling me you loved me, but you wouldn't leave Laura. You kept feeling sorry for her because she was pregnant and kept hesitating. So, I took it upon myself to tell her to divorce you.
Just 3 minutes ago, they were holding hands and skipping, but now they were red-faced and spitting venom at each other.
I did divorce her, but dumping her while she's pregnant looks bad. So, I secretly divorced her and was planning to surprise you. We're already married.
What?
Ashley gasped.
After filing the divorce papers with Laura, I also filed our marriage certificate. I love you, Ashley. Are you happy now?
John,
Tears welled up in Ashley's eyes.
I love you, John.
Ashley threw herself into John's chest. It's strange that Ashley is moved by a man who would secretly file divorce papers and then submit a marriage certificate without consent. A normal person wouldn't appreciate such a surprise. Unable to keep up with the roller coaster of love and hatred unfolding before me, I buried my head in my hands. It was embarrassing to realize that this absurd man had been my husband. Just then, there was a knock on the hospital room door. It seemed like they had arrived. "I'm sorry to interrupt you again." Ashley, who seemed to be in heaven, and John, who seemed to be uncomfortable, looked at me. "Ashley, someone's here for you."
What?
"Come in." At my prompting, police officers entered the room.
What? Police? Wait, having an affair isn't a crime.
I informed the panicking Ashley. "Have you forgotten what you did? You punched me in the stomach and knocked me down, remember?"
I don't know what you're talking about.
There was a noticeable pause before her denial. She might have thought it was just a little shove. But since it escalated to the point where an ambulance had to be called, she must have realized it was serious. "Luckily, my baby is safe, but I won't forgive what you did."
I don't know anything about that.
Ashley was trying to play innocent. It seemed they needed clear evidence. "Watch this video." I played a video on my phone that had been recorded at the flower park that day. A witness who was there had provided it. The main focus was the beautiful flowers, but in the background, you could see me, Ashley, and John. "Look, here you are hitting my stomach. Do you still want to say you don't know anything about it?"
Why?
Ashley, too frustrated to resist, was led away by the police, looking regretful. John, visibly relieved, let out a sigh. His harsh expression softened, and he gave me a sheepish smile.
I'm really sorry.
He blatantly tried to smooth things over and reached for my hand.
It was just a mistake. It's just that, Laura, you wouldn't listen to me.
He cheated because I didn't follow his command to abort the baby boy. I understood, but it wasn't a reason I could accept.
Ashley seemed so sweet and gentle when we started dating, but you saw her true colors, right? Thanks for showing me. In the end, you're the only one I love, Laura. I was deceived.
John shrugged wearily. Really? I guess I was deceived too.
What?
I thought you were a romantic prince, but you're just a selfish cheater. John, who was about to put on a reconciliatory face to ask me to take him back, twitched his cheek. Just then, a police officer tapped him on the shoulder.
Are you ready to go?
What?
The police officer had been waiting patiently, giving us time to talk.
We also need to hear your side of the story.
John jumped and frantically shook his head.
I didn't hit anyone. I didn't do anything. That crazy woman did it all on her own.
John's just as crazy. It's not about the assault. It's about filing the divorce papers without my consent. That's a crime.
Huh? Is that one?
The calm-faced police officer took hold of John's arm. John began to panic.
But we're getting divorced, right? So it's fine. Or wait, we're not divorcing, are we? Let's start over. Let's get married again. That should be okay. We'll just forget about the divorce.
No way. I'm not marrying you again. And even if I wanted to, I couldn't. You secretly married Ashley without her consent too.
Oh my God.
John couldn't resist the police. He hung his head as he was led away, and peace returned to the hospital room. The idea of getting back together was out of the question. He didn't even ask about the baby from beginning to end, proving he's unfit to be a father. Later, neither John nor Ashley faced serious charges and were given probation, but they faced significant social repercussions. John got fired from his job. He claimed it was wrongful termination, but he had been covering up his mistakes, and the company seized the opportunity to let him go. He seemed like a good person on the surface, but often left things unresolved, causing big problems later. Since he worked with one of our clients, I got this information. I wish I had known about his reputation before getting married. Meanwhile, Ashley paid me a substantial settlement to lessen her charges. The money came from her parents. She cried to them for help, but it ended with them cutting ties with her. As a result, she has been clinging to the only person she can rely on, John. One day, I saw Ashley and John in a thrift store.
This suits me perfectly.
Ashley held up a used designer dress in front of the mirror and smiled creepily. Nearby, John, looking lifeless, was hunched over.
You bought a necklace just last week. Stop buying stuff. We don't have money. Please, give me a break.
But I'm a princess, right? John, you made me a princess, so why say something so sad?
Realizing it was best to avoid them, I quietly left the store. I had already received alimony and child support from John in a lump sum while he still had savings. I didn't expect him to lose his job and be stuck with Ashley, but it was a good decision to get everything at once. I returned to my parents' house with my son and led a peaceful life. However, an unexpected incident occurred suddenly.
Thief!
My mom's shrill voice pierced the midnight silence. My dad and I rushed over and saw two figures in the dark.
Who are you? Get out.
I clung to my mom in fear.
Give us the money.
The figures moved erratically before making their demands. I recognized the voice immediately. Don?
No, that's not.
The panicked voice was unmistakably John's, which meant the other figure had to be Ashley. Realizing his identity had been discovered, John panicked even more and inexplicably charged at me.
I know you have money. Hand over the money you squeezed out of your poor ex-husband.
My dad managed to tackle John as he lunged at me. Meanwhile, we called the police. The police arrived quickly and apprehended John and Ashley without much trouble.
I just wanted to get my money back.
Give me back my money. You're the thieves.
Even as they were being shoved into the patrol car, they continued to yell. The midnight commotion woke the entire neighborhood, and a crowd gathered around our house. Dad, are you okay? Dawn had fought like a wild animal, leaving my dad with several injuries. John and Ashley, who tried to break into my parents' house out of spite to get the money back, were arrested again.
They've caused injuries, so this is robbery.
Their probation will be revoked, and they'll face actual prison time. Truly foolish people. Whether they became unhinged because of the affair or their unhinged nature led them to cheat, I don't know, but it's terrifying that a small mistake like infidelity could escalate to robbery. I was relieved to be rid of such a troubled person. While their infidelity and selfish actions shocked me, it was probably a blessing to have seen their true colors early on. I was fortunate that my child was a boy. Time flies, and my son is already 4 years old. Recently, he's been obsessed with playing pretend battles. My dad is always the villain, and I am the princess.
See? I did it.
With a toy sword at his waist, my son proudly plays the hero. Then he extends his hand to me.
Here, princess, I've come to save you.
This adorable young boy is my true prince. I'll raise him with love and care, ensuring he doesn't grow up to be a misguided prince like